Okay, so for our presentation that we have to do, I'm going to recycle the PowerPoint that we had to do on February the 9th of 2018. And that presentation was over World War II, A Change in Worldview. So to start this presentation, I have to go over the basics of what happened at the end of World War One. At the end of World War One, Germany was crippled by its economy, by the size of the military, and everything just overall wasn't going very good for the country, period. And this led to the rise of the Nazis due to the civil unrest from the Great Depression and just the end of World War II period. And here I had the video that we had to have, and the video just basically goes over the rise of Hitler, how he came to power, all the basics of Hitler, essentially. Okay, so the next part to talk about is who's on whose side here. It's basically the same thing from World War One. The Axis powers of Japan, Italy, and Germany, and the allies of France, the United States, Britain, and the Soviet Union. So from the beginning, it's basically just the British and the French. And the Soviet Union was actually on the Axis power side and was allied with Germany until Germany decided to invade them later. But this is pretty much how it goes from the beginning. And then, as tensions rose across Europe, the conflict was unavoidable. There was no way this could be avoided. These powerhouses on each of these sides were going to clash, and this grand scale once again. So basically, we get to the start of World War II now. World War II started in 1939 when Germany invaded Poland. Poland was a country that was neutral, had nothing to do with any of the other countries that wanted to basically mind their own business, and Germany decided to invade them as they was going across Europe and starting to conquer all of Europe. This triggered the Allies to action, and they said this was enough. Enough was enough. You can't invade countries who don't threaten you, who don't wage war against you. This is not right. So that's how it started. And as they march up through Europe, we get to the Battle of Britain. The Battle of Britain took place from July to October of 1940. The Germans launched an aerial attack on Britain, but the British people pushed back. They were very resilient, and the war becomes a two-front war at this point, where the Germans are invading the Russians, and they're also invading Britain. So there's two sides here. So the Germans are stretched out across Europe very widely. So the United States wasn't actually a part of the war until this point, when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1942. On the next slide, I have FDR giving the day that would live in infamy speech. And this is the official declaration of war and the entrance of the United States into World War II. They joined the Eastern Front in Europe, as well as island hopping in the Pacific up to the Japanese mainland. And as I mentioned, this is the video that I plugged in here for the PowerPoint presentation that we had to do. And this is just a day that lives in infamy speech that FDR gave. So the first major thing that happened from the United States entering the war happened on D-Day, June 6, 1944. This is when the U.S. and its allies stormed the beach of Normandy, France, to reclaim France and the rest of Europe from the Germans. There was a very high death count, and it was very bloody and very nasty battle, but it was successful, and it was a turning point in the war in Europe as they started to sweep back through Europe, reclaim territories from the Germans, and push to the heart of Germany itself. Okay, then after the German defeat, after they marched through Europe, we had to also defeat Japan. So after the United States island hopped up through the Pacific, they got to the Japanese mainland, and instead of invading the Japanese mainland, we decided to use the first atomic weapons in 1945, when we dropped them on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and that was basically the end of the war. So basically, at the end of this section, I would ask the students, like, what does the future look like? What does the future hold for the world at this point? And that would describe, well, the USSR and the United States kind of have a conflicted ideology of the world. These are two powerhouses at the end. This is kind of how it would lead into the discussion of the Cold War. So that's the presentation, and thanks.